All right, greetings everybody. It is time for another video, and today we are going to be taking a look at A2, the brand new greatsword user to come to the game with the Nier collaboration. And there are certain other things to talk about with the Nier collaboration, such as improvements and upgrades to the older units as well. But for now, I figured this is where the most interest is. It's been a long time since Ice has gotten a really great, powerful new character. And that's kind of the question. Is this the next generation? Is this year's King Bradley? Well, find out. So first off, showing off this character's limit burst, because you know what? I feel like there are at least a few A2 user fans out there. It's a pretty cool looking limit burst. It looks pretty neat and powerful. And initial impressions while we're on it, the topic is that I think this character looks pretty good. At least for now. Because you know what? The devil's in the details sometimes, and testing can show off sometimes that a character is or isn't as great as you think that they were or are. Like, looking at the numbers and the percentages sure looks good sometimes, but sometimes it just doesn't measure up. So we're not going to be taking a look at the actual demonstration. That's going to be a separate video. This is just looking at her kit and discussing that. And then we're going to do a follow-up video where we look at her kit and in action to see how it performs with this team. So let's jump over to Ice for a second. A full Ice Elemental team, and see what a 140 friend version of this character looks like. And the answer is quite strong, as a matter of fact. If we were to take a look at just a couple of other users here, like this is a 120 Reagan. We look over here, here is a 140 Maya. Like, I do have a bunch of good VCs, but I'm just showing off also what these characters look like. By the way, these characters do not have Trust Mastery stones equipped to them. I haven't really redone this Ice team yet. But yeah, taking a look across what the statistics are, I mean, you can get an idea for how much power these characters are getting from this particular VC set, and what their resistances look like compared to what we're about to check out. But yeah, jumping over, let's take a look at A2 with these VCs. And, you know, 10,000 HP, 1,600 attack, 59 accuracy, which is actually kind of nice. And defense and spirit is also on the positive side, with 112 speed, which is considerably fast. And 3 move and 2 jump, which is pretty good. Also here, we're looking at AoE resistance 35 and single target resistance 45. Going over into the actual resistance part, sword resistance 47% with this build, 63% pierce, and 50% for magic, which essentially counters the only 2 other characters this year that we've gotten that are of the, what I'm saying, the 4th era. You know, onwards from the 4th anniversary. And this character is just very strong against those types. 50% resistance against mages is pretty nice. 63% against spears is really good. Wind will never stand a chance against this. And even slash at 47%. And while strike is a little bit weak because Bridal Eye is very strong, it's good that a character always has some weaknesses, and I assume that this is also because 2P coming out next week will be this character's counter. But in an Ice Elemental party, she looks pretty good. So, you know, we have some pieces of equipment to talk about. Let's start talking about them. First off, her greatsword. 196 attack feels a little low, but the conditions for this greatsword for her are really great. Slash attack up by 15, AP consumption down by 50. Reduces physical damage larger the attack area size of 15%, and increase slash attack resistance penetration by 8. All this pretty nice on a greatsword. If we're taking a look at the VC, just for record, 322 HP, 148 attack, 3 agility on this VC. Pretty nice. Unit is getting 10% attack and HP off of it. Party-wise, increased slash attack by 42, pierce resistance by 16%, so that's where some of the piercing is coming from. AoE resistance of 20 on guild map also gives elemental chain resistance of 18. So a nice DC to be sure, but depends on how many resources you're really it. And the last thing, the Trust Mastery, which I think this is kind of an interesting one because it's a move and jump increase for 3 turns of 1, which on its own is not really that interesting. I mean, there's some agility, accuracy, defense, and spirit all across this accessory, and that's pretty, good in terms of the stats that you're getting. But I think one of the interesting things is the machine killer on here, 40. Not that it's super relevant in a bunch of different places, but in the future, if there's ever a boss that's classified as a machine, this is going to be a nice bonus for whatever that challenge looks like. So, a consideration. All right, so let's talk about what the unit actually gets. So we have a primary new job for A2. Then we have secondary being a Dragoon-based job, the one that the new Water Spear unit, for some reason his name is just eluding me right now. And we also have Spellblade. Spellblade bringing some defensive capabilities. Our new Dragoon job giving a few other things that we'll talk about. In terms of her species, she is a machine, so Human Killer is not effective against her, which probably is one of the big consideration points of her for multiplayer. Now, talking about what she can equip, hat, clothing, and accessories. Master ability gives slash attack resistance penetration of 20 and acquired AP of 30. Keep a running total of that, please, because it's kind of important. Dream enhancement is pierce and magic resistance of 15%, single target resistance of 15, and an upgrade to skills. Talking about her supports, the 2 original supports. First off, this one gets upgraded into her EX slash attack resistance penetration of 40, accuracy of 25, attack of 24%, and AP consumption of 25. This is the one I think that you are always running. It's just too much. As for our other one, slash resistance and pierce resistance of 12% apiece, and AoE of 12. A little bit more of a defensive one. Now, Spear does give her an agility increase, which I don't think she super needs, but you never know, and gives her some strike resistance too. So you can make her potentially stronger against strike-based targets, or against striking opponents. As for the other one, it gives attack and defense penetration, which I don't think she terribly needs, but you can boost her attack power more. And the last one is just magic and whim resistance, which is pretty underwhelming. What isn't underwhelming is her counter. There is no two ways about it. Her counter is nasty. It's the all evade one, where you have a 15% chance to evade physical or magical attacks. Yep, run reaction block, or this unit is going to be a pain in the ass. She also has some interesting stuff in her kit that basically gives her some extra luck sources, which means, this unit can get pretty lucky on this and critical hits. So, yeah, there you go. As for other 2 ones, just piercing damage or chance to counter magic damage by reducing magic damage taken by 45%, which is good if you're against all mages, but other than that, probably the evasion one is just straight better most of the time. Alright, taking a look at her Spellblade, big thing that it seems to bring is reducing magic damage by 70% for 3 times for herself. And she also gets a generation of hate and can increase her magic resistance by a 38% and spirit by 20 for herself and allies. Probably good enough. She also gets poison, but it's such short range that it probably won't. As for her Dragoon job, it does have the attack increased by 40%, defense by 20, and granting protect, which is kind of nice. Absorbs damage as HP. Can inflict stun, which is a nice little status effect to have your hands on. And decrease pierce resistance, but honestly, I don't foresee that ever being super relevant. So the trade-off for her main sub are 2 things. First off, this one. Consumes 60% of her HP to deal a 205% mod in this AoE pattern. What's interesting though is it increases by 80% if there is 5 dead units, which I'm not entirely sure. I think that might be a misprint, but there is a way to get an 80% mod on it, which is 285 on it. Pretty good. And a 50% chance to inflict stun after. So yeah, if you wanted kind of this really interesting ability, a last-ditch effort at a high cost, kind of interesting. Her other ability is consumes 10% HP for an increase of attack of 70% for 3 turns for self, granting the effect upon a hit of restoring CT by 150 when performing a critical hit for 3 turns. If you are going up against mages, I think you choose Spellblade every single time. But if you're not, I actually like this for the specific reason of this ability. Getting crits doesn't seem implausible, so a CT boost is pretty nice. And for a 10% HP for a 70% attack boost, I would make that trade-off most days of the week. The only question is whether or not you'll be able to cast this as well as the other abilities that we are. So, main kit, critical evasion down by 40 for just this cast at a 121 mod. Basic ability, not terribly exciting, but sure, whatever. It's okay. Next ability, granting an agility boost of 25% for 3 turns for allies. Grants the following effect: dispel haste for 3 turns, as well as the protection of a barrier. So basically, barrier destruction is canceled out if a following hit happens from the unit that this is cast upon. 200% mod, or sorry, 200% chance for auto revive at 20, and when the target is revived, also gets a nice little booster, which is an agility increase of 25% and accuracy of 40. So you auto revive, you come back, you're dealing. Also, this is the wrong ability. It's this one. Yes. So pretty cool, pretty good. I mean, she already has a pretty high amount of accuracy, but getting some accuracy boost can be a last-ditch chance to deal with some evasion units, or potentially, you know, you're just getting a speed boost so you can take another swing at the opponent. Maybe get a crit, maybe get CT, maybe if you're just really lucky, somehow you get this done. And there's something on the limit burst that can help that too. But very strong ability, does a lot for very little. All right. Next up, we have the Diamond AoE, not that one, this one. So this one increases defense penetration by 40, 3 turns for self, and a 165 mod, and automatically casts the healing ability, which heals both A2 and another unit for 30% of their HP, which is great. Also, when it gets upgraded, it dispels the protection against a fatal blow. So that is also pretty good. Strong ability, and it gets even stronger once we talk about something else. This ability is one that was not covered earlier, but dispels protect and shell for the target while also dealing 200% mod. It is a double hitter, which is kind of nice for another source painting price. All right. And the final one, her job, level 25, this big one that gets upgraded into her 140. Decrease AoE resistance by factor of 60 for 3 turns for the targets. Reduces counter chance by 100%. 165 mod with 30% chance of hitting the target with absorbing 30% of the damage done. And last but not least, we need to talk about the burst. Limit burst, also in a similar style pattern. 100% chance to track targets by 1 square, which is kind of cool. 45% chance to inflict slow. 45% chance to inflict immobilize. And if that happens, decrease slash attack. And this is one of the things I wasn't too sure about. I'm pretty sure it's slash attack resistant, if I remember correctly. It seems to be maybe a enter error that I'm just noticing, so I'm going to pull that up. But a pretty big reduction for slash attack off. That's the pickup simulator. It's somewhere in. And I just enjoy the music while I scroll all the way down. Reduce slashing attack resistance by a certain percentage. Okay, yes, it does seem to have a error entry on there because it is a percentage based, but it is decreasing slash attack resistance, so a slashing based team will get more damage. I think that A2 is just generally pretty damn strong. No two ways about it. She has some interesting trade-offs while not really losing too terribly much. Like a 70% attack boost for 10% HP, really good. The fact that she can protect your team's barriers will probably make her a really strong consideration for a bunch of units that have been running barriers where barrier destruction has been essential to be able to fight against them properly. But A2 is not perfect. A2 is missing certain things when it comes to dealing damage. While it's really impressive the fact that she has a lot of access to defense penetration and slash attack resistance, she can cast status effects, she can, I didn't even talk about the fact that she does have a barrier herself that reduces physical damage by 50% for 3 times and reduces attack damage if it is a larger AoE. So basically, if it's one of the biggest AoEs, it's 35% damage reduction of physical or magical. All of that is really strong. She's strong against physical, she's strong against magical. It's the entire package with this unit. But she doesn't have barrier removal herself. And, while looking at all of this, she is kind of depending on getting that defense shred in there, that AoE resistant shred, since a bunch of her attacks are AoEs and her longest distant one. And so you need to kind of have that happen. And so the question is, who do you run this character with? There's Alaya, who has barrier destruction. There is Howlet, who has barrier destruction, Ice Howlet. But then you look at water, you look at earth, you look at the potential combining with maybe even fire so that Soul can keep his barrier. There's a lot of different facets of where this character can be really, really good. So looking just at the data, I think this unit is very, very impressive. Guess what? I'll be testing her very soon. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. See you shortly.